Ah, jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. That very primal, ancient emotion that every human feels, even the people who say they don't feel it. That's what we're going to talk about today on Making Polyamory Work, jealousy. This is going to be a pretty brief episode because I really only have one tip to offer you around jealousy. If you're interested in a deeper dive on jealousy, I'm going to link some books that I think are really great if you want to go super deep into jealousy. But I think that this one tip is something that's often overlooked when it comes to jealousy because contrary to what a lot of people think, I think jealousy is something everybody feels. And I think jealousy can actually be your friend if you want it to be. So when our friends come along to try to help us out, what do? We say, thank you. And so today I'm going to talk about how you can say thank you to your jealousy. Welcome to Making Polyamory Work. Hi, I'm Libby Sinback, and I want to thank you for being with me today. I am a queer polyamorous mom and a relationship transformation coach. And I'm here to help you if you're feeling stuck, if you're struggling, if you want your relationships to be more nourishing, more functional, more authentic, and full of love. On my show, I go deep into what actually makes polyamorous relationships work, because relationships are at the core of our well-being as humans. I think love is why we're here and how we heal. So before I go into today's episode, I have updated this recording from the future because I want to let you know that right now, the doors are open for a new cohort of the Relational Non-Monogamy Circle. We are going to get started on November 7th. That is a Sunday. We're going to be meeting on Sunday afternoons all the way through until early March. The Relational Non-Monogamy Circle is my signature offering. It is so cool. It is a 4-month small group program where we go deep into many of the concepts I discuss on the podcast, as well as even more concepts that I only go into with my coaching clients. This is all of the best things that I have to offer distilled down into 16 weeks of awesomeness. It's designed so that you can learn, practice skills, receive hot seat coaching from me, as well as individualized support. And I approach things with a trauma-informed ecological lens. And what I mean by that is wherever you are, wherever you're coming from, you belong here, you matter, you deserve care and compassion, and we're all in this together. We're all connected. If you're interested and you want to learn more, you can check it all out and get all the details at relationalnonmonogamy.com. And so I encourage you, check it out. It's super awesome, and I am so excited to be offering this again. I offered it back in June with amazing results for all of the folks that joined, and I am so excited to offer it again. So really, check it out. You don't want to miss it. Okay, now I'm going to go into today's episode. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Making Polyamory Work. Hi, I'm Libby Sinback, and I want to thank you for being with me today. I'm a queer polyamorous mom, and I'm a relationship transformation coach. I'm here to help you if you're feeling stuck, if you're struggling, if you want your relationships to be more nourishing, more functional, more authentic, and full of love. On this show, I go super deep into what actually makes polyamorous relationships work, because relationships are at the core of our well-being as humans. I think love is why we're here and how we heal. Thank you so much for giving me some of your precious time today. Today's episode is short and sweet, so let's dive in. So one of the big questions that comes up when people are new to the concept of polyamory, non-monogamy, the question inevitably comes up pretty early on. What about jealousy? How do you handle jealousy? And, that question can make a lot of sense, because I think inherent in that question is the understanding that you will get jealous, that jealousy is a thing that's going to happen. And, what's funny is that we have this idea that monogamy is somehow going to protect you from jealousy, because if you take a look around, it really doesn't. One of my favorite movies, actually, where jealousy coexists quite wonderfully with monogamy is this movie called Bridesmaids. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So the two main characters in the movie are Maya Rudolph, who is engaged and getting married, and Kristen Wiig, her supposed best friend. And, Maya Rudolph makes another friend with this woman named Helen, who's played by Rose Byrne. And there's this major competition between Annie, Kristen Wiig's character, and Helen for Maya Rudolph's best friend, bridesmaid, maid of honor status. And it's hilarious. And one of the things I really love about the movie is it really shows how jealousy shows up in all different kinds of contexts, and that rivalries are something that really they go way back to childhood, right? Maybe you don't know this if you don't have kids, or you don't remember what it was like when you were a kid, or you didn't grow up with siblings, but there's this thing called sibling rivalry. Maybe you've heard of it. So when my kids were little, when I was actually pregnant with my second kid, and I was thinking about, how do I get ready to have a second kid? How do I talk to my first kid about that? Because he's so used to it just being him. And I was reading about, what the recommendations are. And what was said a lot is that actually introducing a second kid is really a trauma for the first child who up until that point has been an only child, because then all of a sudden they have to share their parents' love and attention. And there's jealousy. There's huge jealousy. And they've been able to track this jealousy behavior in babies. Even just a baby who doesn't have a sibling, but who is, if they notice that their caregiver, in these scientific studies that they've done with babies, they've said when the baby notices their caregiver is paying attention to another baby, the baby will engage in all these different strategies to try to get their caregiver's attention. And they can be things like cooing and looking super adorable, or crying and making a fuss, or acting withdrawn and, hoping that the caregiver will notice that they're not okay. And we do this as adults. We do this as children. So I say all of this because I think that there's this idea that somehow monogamy and knowing where you stand somehow protects you from jealousy, or that jealousy and feeling jealous is somehow some sign of weakness or frailty or lack of, confidence, security, what have you. And that if you just feel secure enough and good enough in yourself, that you won't feel jealous. And, that's a myth I think that some polyamorous people have. When monogamous people say, hey, what about jealousy? How are you going to handle that? And the polyamorous person goes, well, I don't get jealous. And I always laugh whenever anybody tells me they don't get jealous. They may not get sexual jealousy, sure, that may be a thing, but I guarantee you everybody gets jealous. Jealousy is one of the most core emotions that humans feel. And if you believe that you don't get jealous, maybe you don't get, like I said, you don't get sexually jealous or romantically jealous. Or maybe it's because you do really feel like your position with the person that you are entangled with is very secure. Or you don't define your value and worth by the position you have with your romantic partners, and you get your value and worth from some other place. But if that place gets threatened, I promise you, you will get jealous, because that's what jealousy is. And I think if you take nothing away from my podcast today, I want you to know that jealousy is not a bad emotion. I don't actually think there are bad emotions. I think that there are unhelpful emotions in certain circumstances for sure, but I don't think there are bad negative emotions. And I certainly don't think jealousy is a bad emotion. I think jealousy is an emotion that exists to protect you. Let me say that again. Jealousy is here to protect you. And I think that's something I really want everyone to understand about jealousy. Because think about it. If you are actually under some kind of threat of losing something that you need because somebody is trying to take it away from you, or somebody is crowding out your access to resources, and you start to feel jealous, and then you start to feel motivated to connect to the people who are the source of your resource, like if you're a small child, that's not a bad thing. What you do with jealousy could be a bad thing. If you scream and cry and throw things in response to jealousy, that may not be useful. But jealousy is a really potentially useful alarm bell to you that you feel uncomfortable about access to the things that you need. So, for things that are trying to protect us, what should we do? Well, that's why I titled this episode, Say Thank You to Your Jealousy, because that's what I want you to do when you start to notice you are feeling jealous. I would encourage you to, instead of going into a shame spiral about it or denying it or acting out from it, say, oh, thank you, jealousy, for letting me know something's up. That's it. Just say thank you first. You can do all that processing of jealousy later, but I want you to say thank you to it first. And then what I'd encourage you to do is to listen to it. See, jealousy is like your risk management officer in your body. It's like that extra cautious employee that you hired because they're very exacting and they pay close attention to things, and they're always scanning for threats and looking for potentially risky situations. And when they notice that something might not be okay, they come to you, theoretically the CEO of the company, and they say, hey, we see some threats, we're worried. That's their job. So you want to listen to that part of you when that part of you is saying, hey, we feel like we're under threat right now. We don't feel okay. We're feeling jealous. We're worried about that person over there. We're worried what they might do and what might happen to the people that we need in our lives if they continue to gain more power and influence over our partner or our friend or whomever. Yikes. The key thing is that, okay, once your jealousy is saying, hey, here's what's going on, you have to listen to it and see if your jealousy has got it right. Because, the thing about someone who is designed to constantly be assessing for risks and be evaluating your access to resources or connections to other people is that it may not always be correctly calibrated. And there are some reasons why your jealousy might be off the mark. Some things that I can think of are monogamy programming. Just the feeling of under threat might be, oh, actually, I'm just outside my comfort zone because what I'm used to is being the only person in my partner's life. The same way, again, a firstborn child might say, I'm under threat because I am not used to sharing mom and dad. You're not actually under threat, right? Kids can have siblings and survive just fine that way, as long as their parents do a good job of loving both kids, which, doesn't always happen for what it's worth. But, so if you have an expectation that you're going to be the only person, even if you, have maybe intellectually unpacked that, if you still have that programming in you, your jealousy might be incorrectly calibrated, and you might have to have a conversation with it and say, hey, actually, I know this is uncomfortable for you, but actually we're fine. You might also, some other things that can incorrectly calibrate your jealousy are your own anxiety. Like if your anxiety is turned up a little higher than the average person, then your jealousy might be a little extra sensitive. If you have feelings of low self-worth and you are very extrinsically basing your self-esteem, your sense of self-esteem and self-worth. So if you don't have a core understanding of what you bring to the table and who you are, and you're always constantly looking for other people to tell you that, then your jealousy might be extra sensitive. If you have past trauma around being left or being abandoned if you were a child for someone else, which again, that happens, right? So, if you have that, your jealousy might be extra sensitive and extra looking for threats. If you've had a past hurt from another partner where you've really felt like they really did kind of leave you behind or ignore you for a little while because of someone else, or, even a past hurt from a current partner, because sometimes those things happen even with people we love and even with people we repair with. Sometimes they forget about us because they fuck up, because they're human. So there's all kinds of reasons why your jealousy might be hyper attuned, hyper vigilant for threat, and maybe setting off alarm bells all over the place when you're not actually unsafe. But sometimes jealousy is telling you, hey, you are under threat. You better watch out. You better look around. You better have conversations with people. Sometimes jealousy can kick up because you've actually been the one that's been checked out in your relationship, and someone else comes along and starts feeding your partner things that you have been hearing from them that they want and that you haven't been able to give to them. And then you see them getting that from someone else, and your jealousy goes, whoop, 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 alert, alert. We are under threat. And it's possible you are, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's okay. Don't know. But I can see why that would go off for you. And so again, if you can just treat jealousy like this part of you and not let it run the show of how you handle the next actions you're going to take, it can be very informative, and it can be very valuable, and it can tell you some really useful things about yourself, about your relationship, about other people. And so, it helps to say, thank you for bringing this information to my attention. And then, like a CEO, you take in that information with other information that you have that your jealousy might not have, and you process it. You have a dialogue with that jealousy. And some things that you might ask jealousy to find out why it is going, bazonkas right now, is you might ask, okay, what do you think brought you here to me? What is the thing that happened that is making you perk up? Did you bring any other feelings with you? Do you have any other things going on besides just jealousy? Is fear along for the ride? Anger? Sadness? Anything? Any of you other guys coming along for the ride? Useful to understand what else might be under there. Because jealousy is often riding with fear, what you might want to examine what your fears are that are coming along with jealousy. What are you afraid might happen? What is jealousy trying to protect you from happening? And then maybe think about, is this like something that has happened to me before? Or is this like something that I've seen happen to someone else? And that's what's going on. And then ask jealousy like you would a friend who's like really freaked out about something that maybe is a big deal, maybe not a big deal. Ask them, what do you need right now? What would help? Maybe it's more information. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe you just need to give jealousy a hug and say, yeah, I hear where you're coming from, but we're fine. Or you might need to say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Let's look more deeply into this. Maybe I have some questions to ask myself or my people. But I'm going to come back around to this. Before you start processing your jealousy, inquiring and having a dialogue with your jealousy, I am serious. Pause and say thank you. A lot of people forget this step, and again, it's because I get it. They see jealousy as this weakness or something that's just irrational or an annoyance that just needs to be fixed. Or they treat it as some kind of absolute signal that something is wrong, and they let jealousy become the CEO and start running things. And neither of those things are great. Both are saying to jealousy that if I don't get rid of you, then I'll never be okay. And the thing is, that gives jealousy way too much power over you, whether it is needing to dismiss it and ignore it, or whether it's, letting it fix everything so that it calms down. The truth is, you can hold jealousy and be with it and also be okay. Jealousy is there to protect you. You can learn things from jealousy. You can work with jealousy. You can feel it and also at the same time tell it that it is not in charge right now and it does not get to call the shots of how you're going to handle what it is telling you. Jealousy might be all fired up, but you can call on a deeper inner knowing to lead the way. Like I said, like that calm CEO who is telling its extremely valuable, important risk analysis officer, I hear your concerns. I'm going to look into this. I'm not ignoring you. I appreciate you. That's why I hired you. You're doing your job. And now I'm going to figure out what to do next. So remember, say thank you to your jealousy. It's doing its job. It's trying to keep you safe. And the more that you thank it first, the better you will be able to work with whatever it has to tell you and figure out what to do next. Thanks for joining me today. If you have any thoughts about what I've said or a question for the show, I'd love to hear from you. In fact, I'm going to be bringing on some guests specifically to answer any listener questions. So if you either A, have a really good listener question, please send it to me. Or if you have an idea for a guest for my show, and it could even be you, please also reach out to me if there's something you want to talk about with me on my show. Also, if you just want to connect with me in general, you can reach me on my website, libbysinback.com. You can find me at libby@libbysinback.com via email. You can also find me on social media. I am That Polyam Mom on Instagram and Libby Sinback on Facebook. I'll also say that if you love these podcasts, but maybe you're feeling like your relationship could use more help, this is what I do for a living with my coaching clients every day. If you're interested, you can reach out to me via my website at libbysinback.com/apply to see if we're a good fit possibly to work together. Also, if you love this podcast, please share it with your friends, your networks, your Facebook groups, everywhere, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you want to share a little love my way, you can write a review. And the two places that are the best places for you to write reviews for me are on iTunes or on the Making Polyamory Work Facebook page. It really makes a big difference for people to leave their reviews or comments, so please do. Otherwise, thank you so much again for sharing your time with me today, and I will talk to you soon.